Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for May 11, 2022, the Musk's Tweets Reckless Edition. And we begin with that story as from Bloomberg that a federal court found that, quote, no reasonable jury could find that Mr. Musk did not ask recklessly. Joel Rosenblatt said that's the upshot of a federal judge's review of Tesla Inc.'s 2018 tweets about taking the company public that were revealed in an order that was released. The judge's conclusion was that Musk was misleading in his Twitter post, and that ruling was disclosed, but the ruling wasn't released as Tesla fought to limit how much the public could learn about the regulatory scrutiny. Well, now it's out in the open. The court said, quote, no reasonable jury could find that Mr. Musk did not ask recklessly, given his clear knowledge of discussions which took place with the Saudis. Musk had urged the judge to keep selected materials under wraps because it was protected confidential information. Obviously, if you tweet about it, it's not. From the New York Times, we continue with the story on Elon Musk, and he says that he will revoke former President Trump's ban from Twitter and invite him back on the platform. No real surprise there. We all knew that was coming. It will, effectively destroy the credibility of Twitter, but Musk obviously doesn't care about that going forward. It's going to be interesting to see what the Twitter board does with this information. And, of course, the Twitter shareholders. Next up, from the Seatrade Maritime News, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network has launched a platform to enable parties to identify risks in different ports around the world. This organization sees this as a game changer, as currently there is no standard for comparing integrity risk at different ports, but now there is. So check out that story. And finally, from the Wall Street Journal, Risk and Compliance Journal, Richard Vanderfort reporting that businesses should expect more Russian sanctions. Top export control officials say sanctions packages targeting Russia are likely to grow as the U.S. seeks to hobble Russia based upon its ongoing war in Ukraine. U.S. agencies are contemplating adding more restrictions on doing business with Russia, rather than concentrating on merely enforcing the sanctions and controls in place. Matthew Axelrod, a senior official for the BIS, said, I think you're going to see additional sanctions and additional export controls rolled out. So the Russian sanctions will become more ubiquitous and more robust, and every business needs to be prepared for this and potentially secondary sanctions down the road. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.